We've learned how to harness our own data, publicly available data, and there's a couple hundred different sources we're able to put together, put in a blender, and make a beautiful cocktail with.
This is the Insurance Technology Podcast, where we bring interesting people from across the insurance ecosystem to discuss and debate technology's impact on the industry. Join us each episode for insights and best practices from industry stewards and tomorrow's innovators. Now, here's your host, Reid Holsworth.
All right, welcome back to the Insurance Technology Podcast. I'm your host, Reid Holsworth. We're back with Ilya Bodner, and we're going to ask Ilya the big question that everybody wants to know. Why did you sell to a captive insurer? AmFam, what does that look like? Big question, a lot there, a lot of content there. Stay tuned to that. We're also going to get his take on data usage, specifically around small commercial. And what does it take for the perfect data cocktail, as he says. Then we're going to get to know Ilya a little bit more personally once again. What does Ilya do for fun? Interesting stuff. Stay tuned.
So I think a lot of people are curious, and I've had a lot of people ask me this personally after the big announcement of you guys selling the business to, and you sold it to, for those that don't know, you sold it to a captive. And a lot of people kind of scratch their heads on that, like, why? How does that make sense? Not necessarily for you, but for them. I think it'd be interesting to hear your take on that. You and I have talked about this, but I think for the audience, why does that make sense for them?
Yeah, so definitely. So I'll start out with the things I know best, and then we'll kind of go into a little bit of the gray, which I'll assume. But last year, I had a number in 2020, had a number of options to either raise a big round, a couple $100 million, join on a path to go public through a SPAC, or acquisition. We had a number of folks that were reaching out to us because even through COVID, business boomed. You know, we're a digital exchange, quote volume went up, average premium went up. We actually all hunkered down in our basements and dens and actually surprisingly built better, faster technology. More companies wanted to have websites that you can have a full code experience through. Just everything added up in our favor. It was kind of thrilling. And that put us on the map. And 5-year mark is coming up, was at that time, but it was still a solid year away. And so we had good choices. Acquisition was not something that I woke up in the morning and said, we're going to do. But
same for me. It's just funny how it worked out. Yep. Go ahead.
Yeah. So you get it. You know, you start talking and the numbers start adding up. The story starts adding up. And this is to answer your question where I'm getting into. So for us, when this idea was approached, we had 4 non-negotiables. We said to them, number one, we're a Switzerland-like company. We cannot screw up our neutrality. So number one, we have to be standalone, autonomous, independent, no nonsense of this back office consolidation, like period, end of story. We're a utility. We have to be used and trusted by everybody. Number two, myself and our executives, we're not like ready to hang our hat and say we did anything successful. We're just like in the second chapter of probably an 8-chapter book here. So we want to work. We want to transform the world. We want to put a dent in the universe. We are relentless about the fact that small commercial still is ridiculously awkward and it needs to be an Amazon-like experience. So we got to have the full confidence that we have the control in that. Number 3, we need a lot of capital because organic growth is awesome and we figured out how to do what we need to do, but we're going to buy companies. In fact, I'm excited, Reid, I'll leak it out a little bit here, but we're about to announce a really big company that we are in the process of buying, and we'll probably, by the time you air this, we'll be there. That should, put us on a path to more than like triple now at this point.
Oh, so, wow. That's awesome.
M&A is, a big muscle that we're flexing, and we've demonstrated we can do smaller M&A activity. We're doing bigger ones.
I think I know what it is, by the way. That's good. That's smart. Awesome.
Yep.
Awesome.
And then, so we need that. And then number 4, we need to work with whoever it is to have like a channel partner like relationship, because you got to bring something to the business too. So those are our 4 non-negotiables. And I got to give them credit. Everyone was a gentleman and ladylike about the transaction. There was no 11th hour surprise. It was heard, it was understood, and it was written on black and white, on paper, and accepted that we weren't kidding around. And so our terms were met on that sense. And that was just thrilling. And that's how life is. Even, here we are approaching a year later, almost, believe it or not.
Oh man, it has been that long. Wow.
Time flies by. Yeah, it's crazy. So here we are. Bull Penguin is, we talk about BAU, business as usual. We're independent, we're autonomous. We treat all our customers the same. We have this very regimented data separation, SLAs. Everyone has their secret sauce using the same platform in the middle. We have multi-tenancy software as a service platform. It all works great. Staff is excited. Ask anybody at Bull Penguin, nothing changed. Still work on the same work, and a lot of companies. Now, that's from our standpoint. Business is growing, 100% retention, full growth in every single account. Everyone's using more of Bull Penguin. More customers are coming on. I mean, it is every chart you want to look on is up and to the right. It's solid because we wake up and we bust our ass every day to make that happen and make our clients feel like they are, the most important, because they are. So having said that, from the other side, I don't know fully, but I will tell you what was talked about and shared, and why we agreed to do this. So American Family Insurance doesn't actually sell small commercial themselves as much. They have a farm product and a couple of others, but they are mostly, home, auto, yada, yada. And so while the EAs, exclusive agents there, could use the Bull Penguin platform, you still need choice, which, as we know, in the EA model is complicated. Now, the movement is more and more agents are all becoming choice model independent. So I don't need to do spoilers there. We saw what companies like Nationwide did, and the trend is certainly there. So it makes sense. The other thing is American Family Enterprise actually owns a lot of companies. The General is an example of a big one, and there's a bunch of others, and they just leave them alone because they do them really well. And we felt comfortable after doing our own diligence and references that we would be left alone, and we could certainly set up in a way that would give us that comfort more than just references. And then lastly, it's not a threat. It's just, the story would be a lot different if the headline was Progressive buys Bull Penguin. I think everyone would run for the hills because you know where that's headed. But we were very careful about picking a name that has the same values as us, Midwestern, no, bait and switch, just a very honest, open, transparent company that could live up to the promises it gave to its customers. And we felt like that was the type of company that doesn't scare anybody, but could work in a partnership with.
That's true. I see it. I totally see it. Yeah. Yep. They're a great company too, man. They're right, as you know, they're right down the road from me here in the good land, Wisconsin here. So they are. It's a good move. And I can see what you're saying. When you think about the General and whatnot, living independently and doing their own thing, the whole nine, it gives you guys still the flexibility. And that's awesome, man. That's really good. It's really good.
Yeah. Yeah, I could ramble more on and on, but in a nutshell, non-threatening, promise keepers in a way that could allow Bull Penguin to really spread our wings and flourish as a company. And it felt just right that we would have an opportunity to have a second bite at the apple and keep growing a company now with all the resources, all the tools in our tool belt that is necessary to fully capture a market. Now, remember, we're not a disruptor, right? We're an enablement tool. We think everybody rises with the tide. So as a connector in the middle, we just felt like this all makes sense. And, we live the story every day, and our customers trust us and believe it, and obviously growing with us as well. So just even in hindsight, a year later, it feels like it's the best move.
Yeah, no, that's awesome. I have a question for you. You have, you got a lot of stuff going on, as all of us do. How do you organize your thoughts and your priorities? And like specifically, are you a note taker? Do you take notes? And if so, like what platform? Paper?
Me personally?
Digitally? What's that?
Me personally?
Like
Ilya Bodner?
you have like a task list. Like how does Ilya's brain work in that way? Like is the question.
I'm trying to figure that out myself. But I started this years ago. I actually opened up the Notepad. I have Microsoft Surface, which is, you just type notes. You can't do any fonts like on Word. You can't like start messing around with how pretty it looks. I just like it because it forces you to like just write the words and there's nothing else you could do. Can't like play around with the pretty bullet point or change it from 1 to an A or whatever. And so I have it up. It's called Notes. It's on my desktop and I just write shit all day long into it. And then I revisit it from time to time and try to sort it into what I'm doing. I try to keep it super simple like that. Outside of that, I constantly write myself emails.
Okay. Yeah.
This, think of that thought, 99.99% of those don't go anywhere. But it does help bring up an idea to light or, elevate something. That aside, I'm a heavy Slack user. I found it to be just the most amazing thing ever because of what it is. So I Slack myself or I Slack others and we just kind of iterate, shoot the shit, figure it out. I try to keep it to no more than 2, sometimes 3 things that I'm working on in a week. That's another thing I've learned because you can just get buried with everything else. If there's just like this big boulder or this big thing or 2 or 3 sometimes that you're on, that helps kind of keep you in the zone.
Did you guys at Bold Penguin do anything like EOS or like the Traction Group or the Table Group? I'm sorry, or any of that kind of stuff, follow like Lencioni or any of that?
I don't know. I personally suck at all that. I'm terrible. But when people say, I don't tie my own shoelaces or my shoelaces aren't like, I'm literally the person that buys shoes without shoelaces because I'd never tie them or I forget to. Like this is not an exaggeration at any stretch at all. So with all these processes and everything, I'm sure they work for some. I'm not that guy. I'm not like your space cadet, right? I don't fly around in a hot air balloon and come up with all the great ideas, but I'm also not as regimented oriented. I'm somewhere in the middle. We did try OKRs as a company pre-COVID. That went okay. It didn't go great for us. I think that what ends up happening that's kind of nice is that we just get together every so often, like every couple of weeks or whatever, and we just take out a spreadsheet and write the priorities and then try to sort them to figure out what the priority is and just all talk about it. And there's always different ways to give it points. You talk about the cost benefit, the financial benefit, the strategic benefit. We make stuff up as we go. We just talk it out. And when you put 10, 20, 50 ideas on an Excel spreadsheet and sorted, no matter what, you will have the first one, the second one, and the third one, right? You're not building them left to right. You're going top down. So that just forces whatever is that first one is the first one, right? So it forces everyone to really think about what that top 3, 5 are.
That's what a lot of it's all about. It's like, it just prioritizing everything. And it's, call it rocks, call it whatever, goals. It's all the same thing. And it's just getting the troops to rally around those priorities and then everybody being accountable to them. Right. And everybody agreeing that, hey, these are our top priorities. Let's go get it done. That's what a lot of that stuff is. It's funny. I like talking to other entrepreneurs about kind of how they run that side, because there's always so much going on, so many ideas. And, it's very easy for us to run after shiny objects, right? Everybody. And so, it's interesting. So let's transition to some.
Just
go ahead.
I'll add one more thing to that. I search for that answer like you do. Also, I talk to a lot of successful people, I make it a point to ask them and to find out what keeps them going. And the thing that I keep coming back to, that I keep hearing, is they're just a regimented machine. Sometimes it's not even about the idea or what you're involved in. They just have this discipline that is better and more chiseled out than anyone else. And that discipline is what gets them ahead. So,
yeah, no, I see it. You're absolutely right. And for everybody, it's different, right? It's their own personal. You know, I don't take any notes. It's a weird thing. I just never have. And I always like to, I've tried a lot of different ways over the past, but I find myself, I'm kind of like you. It's like, then I forget to tie my shoe, and then all of a sudden I'm all screwed up. And so I just don't, I have this like crazy notepad in my head of all the things. And I'm blessed and I have a great memory. Right. But things slip sometimes. You have so much and it starts to overload. You know, so there'll be holes here and there because of that. Too much, right? And that's why I'm so terrible at people's names and things like that, because it's like I'm able to prioritize. I'm prioritizing what I should remember, and it sounds bad, and that may hurt some people's feelings, but like a lot of times I don't remember people's names. I remember their face. I remember the times we've had together and the fun things we've done, and I remember the context of the conversations and everything. But why not the name? It's just one of those things. But you know, something to improve on. So let me ask you something. So try to transition. Let's talk a little Insurtech, right? We're all involved. We play in this world. We hear all this stuff, all the razzle dazzle, the stuff that's actually happening, whatnot. Let's talk data, right? Data's been a hot thing for a long time. Everybody's talking about it. And you know, one of our previous episodes, Kabir indicated that as an industry, we are very rich in data, but we don't think data is important. Do you think data is important? Are we very rich in data? I mean, what are your thoughts there? You have a lot of data running through all of your pipes. You know, what are your thoughts on some of that?
So my answer is going to be filter through commercial insurance and small commercial insurance, to be more specific. So it doesn't, you know, capture all of P&C or the other parts of insurance, just small commercial. And in that sense, data is critical. Are you kidding me? I mean, it's the most important thing. It's just hard to figure out, find, and make actionable decisions from it. So we actually at Bull Penguin have decision grade data that we're selling as a service. We just rolled that out beginning of this year. We have 3 major carriers that are subscribing multi-million-dollar contracts.
Decision grade data for sale. What does that mean?
So, like you said, we have a lot of data running through the exchange. We've learned how to harness our own data, publicly available data, and there's a couple hundred different sources we're able to put together, put in a blender, and make a beautiful cocktail with. So we're able to do things like you give us a name of a business and we give you 20 other fields about it that's accurate. Or you give us another field and we're able to pre-fill or tell you how accurate the other fields are. And now we're selling it as a service in a couple of different ways. One is we're just helping you enrich your own data set. So if you imagine filling out an application and you only have parts of it and you want to fill the rest. We're also validating. So imagine you're getting information about a risk or a small business and you need to know if something is true or not and bounce it another credible source. We're it. And then we're able to start eliminating question sets from the application flow. So anything that's consumer facing, you want to, John Doe, the landscaper, and you want to skip the 5 other questions because you can gather it. We can capture it for you and have the carriers agree to it. And we're able to do that because we've seen millions of small businesses go through our exchange. We have a data science team. We bought a company that does policy scan and policy checking software. We recruited a number of people to work with the largest insurance carrier names in this space to run this initiative so that you can start sending less application by email and have it go directly, upload and go into the policy administration systems and give rates back and give validation of it. So I said a lot there, but just to summarize it, we have a big initiative within Bull Penguin, a data science initiative where we're trying to make the pre-fill, the validation, eliminating of question sets, building new products happen a lot easier with the decision grade data that we're able to provide.
What's interesting is when you're just talking about that, I kind of feel like, because everybody's doing it, we're all doing that at different levels in different ways, not doing exactly what you're doing, but you know what I'm saying? Everybody's doing this. Yeah. And
that's the problem is that everyone's doing it and there's no one single place. That's great. You and I both know, there's no good place to buy data. It's all garbage, third-party data and all that stuff. That's why we're not coming out yet and saying, oh, we have it, we've cracked it. We're not it. And no one has that yet. Particularly at Bull Penguin, we've decided to find a niche, small commercial, so information about a piece of property or a small business that employs 5 to 10 employees, that we do really well. So anyone listening should be reaching out to us if I can promote for a second. But the space is so wide and there's so many different use cases and things you want to get out of it that no one's cracked it yet.
I kind of feel like in our world, all of us being friends and whatnot, I feel like a player will emerge in the future that's just basically tapping in to all of us combined, right? Data wise, because there's a lot of overlap already to some degree, like some of the sources you're using and some of the sources we're using and so on and so on and so on and so on. Right. But collectively, everything you're doing is a kind of a secret sauce. Right now, if you, like you said, I like the way you put it, you're making this fabulous cocktail. Well, I don't know. If you could tap into say 8 cocktails, what would that look like?
It sounds amazing. I just think it's a long, long, long ways away because there's just so many different places and not everyone will agree to share and the amount that we share. So where's that golden record kept? Who's the safekeeper of it? It's going to be a while. But in theory, you're absolutely right. In fact, whoever does take on that challenge will need a lot of money, a lot of patience, and probably there'll be one prevailing source of that.
Yeah, that's interesting. So what is the biggest thing you're working on right now? What you got?
Yeah, the biggest thing for Bull Penguin is rolling out our agent terminal to small independent insurance agents. You can log in to terminal.bullpenguin.com, sign up for an account, quote any kind of risk, whether it's admitted or not admitted, and get a price back from carriers that you're appointed with or can get access to through us. And we're trying to make that a slick experience, fast, accurate, better market access, better integration, with the Ivans and AMSs, powering your website, powering your storefront, the whole caboodle. Agency in a box. And so we have it now. We're excited to be sharing it. And we have hundreds of agency users, thousands actually. And we're going to make even a bigger splash at Insurtech Connect of how, you could take this Ferrari out for a ride for just a few $100 a month. Nice. So that's the big focus. The whole team is rallied around the number of terminal customers that we'll have this year, the number of quote starts that we'll have, the number of quotes that are retrieved, and then the time it takes to get from quote to bind. We're relentlessly tracking that.
That's awesome, man. A lot going on.
So, to put it together, as you know, takes a lot of team effort from various components coming together.
What's funny is when you were saying a second ago, you're like, oh yeah, it's just, an agent just logs in and they enter the information and they get a price back. And like, it's like people that haven't been in this industry for a long time, like that is so simple, right? but so complicated to execute on. It really is.
Oh my God, underneath
really
the water.
Like,
yeah. We're on this glacier and underneath the water. The amount of hamster wheels and the technology and the microservice, like everything that has to come true for us to push that button so that a quote can come back is so complicated, and so many moving pieces and so many things that can break and so many dependencies that it's literally taking hundreds of us to make that happen. And I'm proud to say that we have it now, and we're the largest and the most reliable. We talk about reliability and speed of velocity. I mean, we're just proud of that. But to your point, I make it sound simple, but there's really hundreds of people working their asses off to make it happen.
It's a mess, man. But hey, thanks to you, man, for getting it done. You've really pushed the industry in a lot of ways to move forward, technically speaking, and you guys crushed it. It's a freaking awesome story, man. So as we start to wrap up, who do you think I should interview next on this podcast? Like, what kind of tech influencer? Anybody come to mind that you think I should interview?
I don't think we give incumbents enough credit. So I don't have like a specific name in mind, but 5 years ago you would have asked me, I was like, oh, they're just big, complacent and stuffy. But I think that's changed. I think a lot has shaken up, and there's just maybe I just started knowing them, or maybe they actually started making the moves or whatnot. But it would be kind of cool to have somebody from the space, from a large company, not like one of those like, oh, we build an innovation center to check the box.
Yeah.
And no offense to them, those that are listening that did that, but those that are like truly trying to get something done or thinking interesting, I'll come back with some names maybe, but it would be neat to see not just from like a smaller startup on the rise, but from the other lens in that's making some moves.
Are you thinking like AMS side, policy administration side, like that kind of incumbent, or are you talking carrier, captive, independent, something like that?
Yeah, I think a carrier or a brokerage, or a known insurance entity. Yeah, that's not specifically a software provider.
I think to answer your question, I think your analysis is correct in that they've changed because they've had to change. Dude, I remember talking to people, and it sounds like a long time ago. I don't know, maybe it is a long time ago, 7-8 years ago, and in this industry, and they didn't even know who Salesforce was. Like, I had to train people on these calls what Salesforce was. They'd never even heard of it. Crazy, right? Like 7 years ago in our industry.
Wild, yeah.
And so I think that they have changed for sure. And so no, that's good. I like that. I think you're right. We should bring in somebody on that side. And a lot of these big agencies, these carriers, I mean, I'm not going to name names here, but like I know a couple carriers where they really consider themselves technology companies. And these are big shops. And the majority of their staff are actual technologists in a lot of different ways. And so it's kind of crazy for an insurance carrier to look at themselves that way, right?
Yeah.
Especially a big one and a legacy one. But that's where they're moving. So lastly, what do you do for fun, Ilya? What does Ilya do? What is fun?
Maybe
outside of taking care of the kids and the family. Everybody says this. Like, I know.
That's literally was going to be my answer.
This. Like, okay, like the day off from the part-time job.
Well, it's hard because I'm a father of 3 little girls, and Camp Bodner is in full swing in our backyard. So, if you're forcing me to go beyond that, which is literally where I spend all my waking time outside of Bull Penguin, I'd say that for fun right now, I am trying to see. I'm exploring and daydreaming a lot about where and how I would spend my vacations. I think that COVID, being locked up in a cage, has made me rethink of Like, do I really want to fly to Rome to see a bunch of ruins? Or do I want to get a more meaningful experience and what that looks like? So I'm spending a lot of time, which is really fun for me, really reevaluating. Do I want to just see a bunch of old burnt up buildings, or do I want to see nature, and how do I want to experience it? Which is fun. It really is fun. I'm pushing into my, into new levels, and I think it'll teach me a thing or two about myself.
Have you ever done any hikes, any big hikes?
Yeah. Oh yeah, I've hiked, I've hiked an active volcano. I've, slept at the bottom of the Grand Canyon. I've done all sorts of that stuff, but I've always done it as like, the 20-some-year-old half drunk, like barely remembering the trip kind of guy.
Right.
So I don't know. I'm be interested to see what like a deeper meaning in any of those experiences like, and maybe a hike, maybe a nice hotel, maybe a drive, a destination. I'm just exploring all of it and trying to understand what would be fun.
Earlier in your conversation, in this conversation, you're talking about business, and it's just like all the issues that you have. It's not all roses and sunshine as an entrepreneur, but it's so freaking rewarding. And look, I'm like you. I've been there. I've been on a Friday at noon, and I got to come up with another $300,000 by 2:00 in order to make payroll. That's insane stress, right? And doing all that, but you love it, right? And we keep coming back. And for me personally, like I've always tried to do a big challenging hike every year. I try to. And what that does, it's funny because when you're in the middle of a mountain and you're climbing a mountain, whatever it may be, hiking, really, it doesn't matter, anything like that. You think to yourself, why am I doing this? And then when you keep pushing and you push yourself and you conquer it, you get to the top, right? It's not even that satisfying, honestly. You're at the top, you're like, all right, can we go down now before I die? Right. and then you're like, and then you kind of, this is just me, my experience with it. Then you kind of come off that and you're like, oh yes, finally. Okay. Now I'm going to eat a piece of pizza and have a cold beer. Then you step back and you go, that was truly freaking amazing. Why? Because you conquered it. You did it. You pushed through it. You made it happen and you achieved it. Right. And I think for me, that's what brings it back. And that's why I like doing those, because also you detach to nature, the whole nine, and you're able just to be, right? But you still have that same experience. So it seems like maybe chasing something like that,
I think I'm going to hang up from this podcast and book that Yellowstone trip I always wanted to take.
That would be amazing. Yeah. All right, Ilya. Well, thanks for joining, man. A pleasure as always. It's been a lot. Thank you.
Awesome.
And, yeah.
Wow, that was awesome. Ilya, what a fantastic dude. Been involved in so much, done so many things, and just continuing to do stuff. It's really interesting to hear that one of his non-starters for the buyer, AmFam, was that he wanted to remain to be Switzerland and work with everybody within the industry. I thought that was interesting. It's pretty good. It's cool to see that he's continuing to innovate with Bold Penguin, and Bold Penguin is continuing to push the platform forward under that captive. And that's because of that decision, that non-starter that he put there. I assume it's a big part of it. So really interesting story around all of that. Never would have expected. And a lot of people in the industry were like, what? How did he sell to AmFam? So cool to get that out there. Listen, I hope Ilya finds the next big mountain to climb and finds that next awesome vacation, detach, get out there to continue to crush it like he has for so many years. Join us next time when we interview another amazing guest on the Insurance Technology Podcast.